Police are on high alert in New York City today. Authorities saying that they have received a credible threat that al-Qaeda may be plotting to bomb bridges and tunnels. The threat coming as the city prepares to mark 10 years since the worst terrorist attack ever on American soil. Our Chris Galis is live in New York this afternoon overlooking Ground Zero where the World Trade Center once stood, and we are hearing about these threats, Chris.
That's right, and we do have a few more details. You mentioned the word credible. That is one word they used to describe it. They also said specific and unconfirmed. So we need to keep those things in mind when it comes to this threat. Obviously, they take these things very seriously. The threat may include the use of a car bomb in either New York City or Washington, D.C. That was one of the details that they released last night. And of course, they take these threats, as we mentioned, very seriously. New York police setting up additional road checks, stopping traffic at every turn, sweeping parking garages, looking for anything suspicious. They are towing illegally parked cars, which they always do, but they're doing it with an efficiency that we rarely see, and posting officers with helmets, bulletproof vests, assault rifles at trains and subway stations. It's believed there may be as many as 3 people involved in this threat entering the U.S. in recent days. This threat and information about it came from Pakistan, and one of the suspects may in fact be a U.S. citizen. So again, while officials are calling the threat specific and credible, it is still unconfirmed. And I've got to tell you, here in New York City, it was greeted with a collective shrug by most people here who are more than used to threats of this nature and go about doing their regular business here in New York City like they always do. Work continues, as you mentioned, on the job site right behind me. On the left side of your screen, you can see the very corner of the museum pavilion that will open up next year. And you can also see the corner of the reflecting pool, one of the pools in the plaza that will open to the public on Monday. So work continues to put the final touches on that before the 10th anniversary tomorrow, or make that Sunday, sorry.
Now, Chris, I know that a number of police and firefighters from BC are in New York for this commemoration, and I'm sure they're still feeling the effects of that attack.
Well, we really all are, aren't we? The effects of 9/11 impacted all of us, and you're reminded of it anytime you go through an airport. But you're right, many felt compelled when they watched what happened on 9/11 to jump in and do whatever they could, especially, of course, for the first responders. Now, in Vancouver, 2 VPD officers were compelled to immediately do what they could. Investigator Todd Catchpole and Sergeant Steve Gibson quickly came up with a plan, and it didn't take them long before they had a bunch of help with it, designing and printing thousands of stickers to hand out to help them collect donations for the New York Police Department. Their hard work was successful, to say the least. They raised about $250,000 for their New York brothers and sisters.
It started as a little local thing in downtown Vancouver, and before you knew it, we had officers from across Canada phoning us saying, can you send us, 1,000 or 5,000 labels? I remember a guy named Jason in Moose Jaw. And he said, hey, can you do this? And he sent us $3,500, and Shinderkirk and Abbotsford started it, and it really blossomed. So it really showed that people all over really wanted something to do. They wanted, someone to reach out to and just to do their little part. We got down there and they treated us like we were something special. And we were going down there just to show them that they were the special ones. They were the ones who were in need of help. These guys they stood in awe that Vancouver, out of everyone throughout the United States and all the major cities in the United States, Vancouver came to the forefront out of everybody for just really stepping up and really making a difference.
And Todd Catchpole also responsible for a number of memorials in Victoria and Vancouver for local police officers who died in the line of duty. And he's really kind of made it his hobby to make sure that those who die in the line of duty get the recognition that they deserve. Deb?
Absolutely. And I'm just wondering what happens next. We know that security is already tight across the city. Yeah, and there's going to be another level of security kicking in tomorrow just prior to midnight as well. Of course, there are some very high-powered dignitaries that will be here at the 9/11 10th anniversary ceremony on Sunday, including President Barack Obama, past President George W. Bush,
Mayor Bloomberg will be here, past Mayor Rudy Giuliani, the police commissioner Ray Kelly. So with all of those people here, another level of security kicks in. The gridlock will continue with traffic stoppages right around this area that will continue from 11 p.m. Saturday night until 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Many streets around the area will be closed. The hotel we're staying in will be issuing wristbands and will not allow anybody who is not a registered guest in. Many other hotels in the area will. And any bags or backpacks, if any of our viewers are planning to be here, will be checked on demand by police. So that's what's coming up throughout the weekend. Deb, back to you.
All right, Chris Galis in New York City. Thank you, Chris. And of course, we'll have full coverage of the ceremonies to commemorate 10 years since the 9/11 attacks. It all begins at 5:30 on Sunday morning. Wayne Cox is here now, and we've had some temperature records.
And the names of the victims are read aloud during a memorial service in New York City. That is Global National from Gander, Newfoundland tonight, and a big thank you to the airport staff for hosting us here today. Good people in this province. I hope you can join us again tomorrow as Global National broadcasts from New York on the eve of the 9/11 anniversary. For now, good night.
Tonight on the News Hour.
A rolling earthquake shakes homes and buildings from Vancouver Island to the BC interior. Aftershocks still to come. Still no sign of the missing boy from Sparwood or the suspect who may have abducted him. The suspect's mother makes an appeal. And as the ceremonies begin to mark the 10th anniversary of 9/11, America responds to a new terror threat.
Live from Global, British Columbia, the News Hour with Chris Galis.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for a special edition of the News Hour live in New York City, where they are preparing for the 10th anniversary of the terror attacks of 9/11. But it's back in BC, where two major developing stories are happening tonight. And we've got Deb Hope back in our studios with more, including a major earthquake that struck on Vancouver Island. Deb, this wasn't the big one, but it was big enough to cause some people some nervousness.
It certainly was, Chris. We'll talk to you a little later. It was a magnitude 6.4, a strong earthquake that struck off the west. Police are on high alert in New York City today. Authorities saying that they have received a credible threat that al-Qaeda may be plotting to bomb bridges and tunnels. The threat coming as the city prepares to mark 10 years since the worst terrorist attack ever on American soil. Our Chris Galis is live in New York this afternoon overlooking Ground Zero, where the World Trade Center once stood, and we are hearing about these threats, Chris.
That's right, and we do have a few more details. You mentioned the word credible. That is one word they used to describe it. They also said specific and unconfirmed. So we need to keep those things in mind when it comes to this threat. Obviously, they take these things very seriously. The threat may include the use of a car bomb in either New York City or Washington, D.C. That was one of the details that they released last night. And of course, they take these threats, as we mentioned, very seriously. New York police setting up additional road checks, stopping traffic at every turn, sweeping parking garages, looking for anything suspicious. They are towing illegally parked cars, which they always do, but they're doing it with an efficiency that we rarely see, and posting officers with helmets, bulletproof vests, assault rifles at trains and subway stations. It's believed there may be as many as 3 people involved in this threat entering the U.S. in recent days. This threat and information about it came from Pakistan, and one of the suspects may in fact be a U.S. citizen. So again, while officials are calling the threat specific and credible, it is still unconfirmed. And I've got to tell you, here in New York City, it was greeted with a collective shrug by most people here who are more than used to threats of this nature and go about doing their regular business here in New York City like they always do. Work continues, as you mentioned, on the job site right behind me. On the left side of your screen, you can see the very corner of the museum pavilion that will open up next year. And you can also see the corner of the reflecting pool, one of the pools in the plaza that will open to the public on Monday. So work continues to put the final touches on that before the 10th anniversary tomorrow, or make that Sunday, sorry.
Now, Chris, I know that a number of police and firefighters from BC are in New York for this commemoration, and I'm sure they're still feeling the effects of that attack.
Well, we really all are, aren't we? The effects of 9/11 impacted all of us, and you're reminded of it anytime you go through an airport. But you're right, many felt compelled when they watched what happened on 9/11 to jump in and do whatever they could, especially, of course, for the first responders. Now, in Vancouver, 2 VPD officers were compelled to immediately do what they could. Investigator Todd Catchpole and Sergeant Steve Gibson quickly came up with a plan, and it didn't take them long before they had a bunch of help with it, designing and printing thousands of stickers to hand out to help them collect donations for the New York Police Department. Their hard work was successful, to say the least. They raised about $250,000 for their New York brothers and sisters.
It started as a little local thing in downtown Vancouver, and before you knew it, we had officers from across Canada phoning us saying, can you send us, 1,000 or 5,000 labels? I remember a guy named Jason in Moose Jaw. And he said, hey, can you do this? And he sent us $3,500, and Shinderkirk and Abbotsford started it, and it really blossomed. So it really showed that people all over really wanted something to do. They wanted, someone to reach out to and just to do their little part. We got down there and they treated us like we were something special. And we were going down there just to show them that they were the special ones. They were the ones who were in need of help. These guys they stood in awe that Vancouver, out of everyone throughout the United States and all the major cities in the United States, Vancouver came to the forefront out of everybody for just really stepping up and really making a difference.
And Todd Catchpole also responsible for a number of memorials in Victoria and Vancouver for local police officers who died in the line of duty. And he's really kind of made it his hobby to make sure that those who die in the line of duty get the recognition that they deserve. Deb?
Absolutely. And I'm just wondering what happens next. We know that security is already tight across the city.
Yeah, and there's going to be another level of security kicking in tomorrow just prior to midnight as well. Of course, there are some very high-powered dignitaries that will be here at the 9/11 10th anniversary ceremony on Sunday, including President Barack Obama, past President George W. Bush, Mayor Bloomberg will be here, past Mayor Rudy Giuliani, the Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. So with all of those people here, another level of security kicks in. The gridlock will continue with traffic stoppages right around this area that will continue from 11 p.m. Saturday night until 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Many streets around the area will be closed. The hotel we're staying in will be issuing wristbands and will not allow anybody who is not a registered guest in. Many other hotels in the area will. And any bags or backpacks, if any of our viewers are planning to be here, will be checked on demand by police. So that's what's coming up throughout the weekend. Deb, back to you.
Tonight on the News Hour.
A rolling earthquake shakes homes and buildings from Vancouver Island to the BC interior. Aftershocks still to come. Still no sign of the missing boy from Sparwood or the suspect who may have abducted him. The suspect's mother makes an appeal. And as the ceremonies begin to mark the 10th anniversary of 9/11, America responds to a new terror threat.
Live from Global, British Columbia, the News Hour with Chris Galis.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for a special edition of the News Hour, live in New York City, where they are preparing for the 10th anniversary of the terror attacks of 9/11. But it's back in BC, where 2 major developing stories are happening tonight. And we've got Deb Hope back in our studios with more, including a major earthquake that struck on Vancouver Island. Deb, this wasn't the big one, but it was big enough to cause some people some nervousness. Thank you, Deb. Yes, that credible and specific threat has been unconfirmed, but still, as you mentioned, a heightened state of alert here in New York City. Just a couple of blocks from our hotel, they stopped all of the buses, and you got to remember that a lot of commuters were trying to get home. Thousands of people were delayed as they checked under the buses with mirrors for anything suspicious. And that's not the only thing they've done. They've brought in more police officers. They've extended their shifts from 8 to 12 hours. They've set up even more vehicle checkpoints and looking for anything suspicious as well in parking garages, doing regular sweeps there, and deployed more officers to the streets and to subways. It's believed, based on this threat, that a handful of people, maybe only 3, may have entered the U.S. in recent days as part of the suspected plot, which officials say originated in Pakistan. One of the suspects, they believe, may be a U.S. citizen. They've got all of the capacity of Homeland Security working on this, trying to figure out whether this is, in fact, a real threat or if it's just something that is specific that came out of some of the intelligence they got once they found al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. So it's still unconfirmed, but again, lots of changes to the security threat level here. And it's not just in New York, of course, where the security level has changed. Take a look in any airport or at any border crossing around the world, and you'll see what has happened and how we've been impacted since 9/11 10 years ago. And as Jeff Hastings tells us in his report tonight, it's the security that you don't see that's making the biggest difference.
At a glance, the International Departures Terminal at Vancouver Airport is more or less the same place it was a decade ago.
We just hope that, we find them before they do something bad.
And despite the new threat here in New York City, this may be the safest city in all the world to be, because there are hundreds of police officers from all around the globe here, including 200 from Canada, who have come to town to pay their respects and show solidarity with their New York brothers and sisters. Hundreds of officers, as we mentioned, from across Canada marched past Ground Zero in honor of the NYPD officers who lost their lives on and after September 11th. 23 officers lost their lives that day. But I will say this, nobody took a hit like the New York Fire Department, which lost 343 members on 9/11, 55 due to 9/11 related illnesses since then. And when Vancouver firefighters saw what their brothers and sisters in New York were going through, they knew that they had to get involved, and that helped create a bond that still exists to this day. Vancouver firefighters saw what happened, felt an immediate need to help, and in a moment of inspiration came up with an idea that touched the hearts of millions of people, thousands right across British Columbia, and we caught up to one of the men who made that all happen.
I got a phone call and I was just getting the day started, like so many people were. The imagery was just, wasn't believable in a sense. I thought I was watching a movie until I was told what was actually happening. We knew when those buildings went down that there were thousands of civilians, but also there were going to be police and firefighters and paramedics involved.
You can see the 2 towers, a huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us.
This was the ad.
Battalion Chief Rod McDonald remembers every detail of that day. Reminders of 9/11 and how British Columbians jumped in to help are in every fire hall in the city.
We asked everyone to give generously that day, 1 month after the event.
Are you guys protecting? Yeah, for New York firefighters.
Hundreds of firefighters hit the street to raise money for the International Association of Firefighters Relief Fund.
People were running up and just dumping 50s and 100s and into these boots, and we were wondering, what are we going to do with all this money? I mean, we had no place to put it. We didn't anticipate the volume.
They were overwhelmed. In one day, the boot drive raised $600,000.
From the Vancouver Firefighters Union Local 18.
Rod went to New York with dozens of other firefighters to deliver the check.
New York was really messed up. But in that one moment at the Consulate General, everybody had a big cry, and it was to do with the emotion of accomplishing something and being able to do something for the Big Apple.
Jeff, I love everybody in this room. God bless the good people in this world.
Thank you all. Do you feel like your efforts helped in the healing of New York City?
Absolutely. That without a doubt. The New York firefighters appreciated every firefighter that came there to help.
A lifeline extended thousands of kilometers across the continent, an experience that will live with them forever.
When the plane was leaving the tarmac in New York, I looked back and I thought I was leaving my city. It was like we were leaving our city behind when we left.
And those efforts are remembered here in New York City for sure by some of the New York firefighters that still work. And as we mentioned, 55 have lost their lives since 9/11 happened. They've added a couple of names to that wall just in the past couple of weeks. And I think the way Rod talks about it is the way a lot of people are going to feel once they see this memorial. It opens to the public on Monday. We'll give you a better look at it. I'll kind of step out of the way because you can see one of the massive reflecting pools, one of two that mark the imprints or the spot where the World Trade Center towers once stood. That is among one of the largest man-made waterfalls ever created. Each side of each square, 170 feet. It pumps about 30,000 gallons. And I think everybody who comes to visit this will get a sense, like Rod does, that they take a little piece of this city away from them. We were lucky to catch up to the man who designed this whole thing, Michael Arad, who actually has a really interesting connection to BC. He honeymooned with his wife in Whistler, loves the natural beauty of the West Coast, can't wait to revisit Vancouver. And the interview that we did with him will be a part of our coverage on the NewsHour on Sunday, right along with the 10th anniversary commemoration of 9/11. Many dignitaries will be here. U.S. President Barack Obama, former President George W. Bush, former Mayor Giuliani, and Mayor Bloomberg will be here, which is another reason why security has been tightened considerably and will be even tighter from Saturday evening through to Sunday afternoon. So that's the latest from here tonight on the roof of the World Financial Center, right across from the new 9/11 Memorial, which again opens Monday. Back to you, Deb.
Well, it looks absolutely wonderful, Chris. Thank you.
Sure.
Now, one more note about the 9/11 anniversary. Global National will have special coverage of the ceremonies on Sunday morning. Donna Friesen will be live in New York near the site of the World Trade Center as the victims of 9/11 are remembered. And she will be joined by Chris Galis, Eric Sorensen, Jacques Bourbeau, and Paul Johnson at the Pentagon, and Ross Lord in Gander, Newfoundland.
Home furnishings for a relaxed, laid-back lifestyle that complement rather than match. Casual, beautifully blended, and uncluttered. Life should be this comfortable.
Live from Global British Columbia, the Saturday Morning News.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. It's 9:28. Well, there may be a new security threat in New York City and Washington, D.C. However, it's not stopping residents from attending memorials to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And our own Chris Galis has more now from New York.
Sophie, U.S. officials are still trying to determine exactly how serious and how credible that threat is. We got a little bit more information about what it entails. They believe that the informant who gave them the information in Pakistan is credible. He's provided credible information in the past, but in this case, some of the details are very vague and very sketchy. We know that the threat includes at least 2 men of Middle Eastern descent who may be holding U.S. citizenship or U.S. documentation of some kind that allowed them entrance into the country within the past couple of days. The plot may include a car or a truck bomb, but the informant who gave them the information only gave a partial description of a couple of men and a partial name. That name was Suleiman, which is a very common name in that part of the world, so that hasn't provided a lot of help for them. They'll continue to look at all of the information and try to find out if this threat is in fact real. In the meantime, they're not taking any chances, and they've increased the number of vehicle checks that there are here in New York City. They'll be closing down a massive square block area, several square blocks around the new National 9/11 Memorial site in advance of the commemoration of the 10th anniversary tomorrow. And the reason is obviously that they've got some high-powered guests that will be here. Prime Minister Stephen Harper arrives in New York this morning. Former President George W. Bush will arrive this afternoon. There are mayors, governors, and many other people who will be down here on Sunday for the 10th anniversary of the terror attacks of 9/11. Also this morning, some local residents just doing what they can to commemorate the victims of 9/11. They held an event called Hands Across New York, and thousands of them showed up in Lower Manhattan. They linked hands as a sign of strength and solidarity and a way to commemorate in a very personal way the victims of 9/11. And you see little informal commemorations and ceremonies like that popping up all over New York. and our coverage will include some of that throughout this weekend. And it is amazing how Lower Manhattan, as a neighborhood, as a community, has bounced back since 9/11. The population down here has doubled. We spoke to a lot of people who say that this is just a wonderful community, and there is a sense of vibrancy down here that didn't exist prior to 9/11, and that the neighborhood has really grown. So it's an interesting look at a transformation. And we talked to one shoemaker who once had a store. He was one of the first tenants in the World Trade Center towers. He lost everything on 9/11 10 years ago, but he is scrambling and fighting and scraping to get by. And we talked to him about what he's witnessed and why he wants to return to One World Trade Center when it is finally built. It's expected to open for tenancy in 2014. So we talked to them. That's part of our coverage on the News Hour tonight, and we'll be here obviously tomorrow as well for the 9/11 10th anniversary memorial ceremony. Back to you, Sophie.
All right, thanks for that. Chris Galis is in New York for us. Donna Friesen there as well for Global National. We'll have extensive coverage on the anniversary starting tomorrow morning at 5:30. And we'll talk to Chris again tomorrow on the Sunday Morning News. 9:32 now on the Saturday Morning News. Beautiful start to the weekend, Wes Lawang.
Yes, a beautiful start, and it's going to be a beautiful end as well for
The world's attention is focused back on New York City tonight on the eve of the 10th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And that's where our Chris Galis joins us near the site of Ground Zero. Good evening to you, Chris.
Good evening, Robin. Yes, we're right across the street from the new 9/11 memorial at the World Trade Center site, the plaza just below me, and right in front of that, all along West Street, you talk about the heightened state of alert, is a lineup of about 25 police cars, all with their lights flashing, a sign of the increased police presence in New York City and as well in Washington, D.C., since that credible terror threat was unveiled just a few short days ago. So some other signs that things aren't exactly as normal here in New York City. Signs up everywhere about subway closures that will go into effect this evening and last throughout the day tomorrow during the commemoration ceremony at the plaza. The entire perimeter here, several square city blocks around the National 9/11 Memorial, will be closed to vehicular traffic. Anybody who wanders down here will be subject to random bag searches, any backpacks or bags. And there is a strong police and National Guard presence where you see people walking around with automatic weapons in camouflage gear, and it can be a little bit unsettling for people who realize that things are not exactly as normal here in New York City. It can be quite daunting. Now, among the team that is charged with making sure that everybody who comes down here is safe is the Port Authority Police. That's a very separate and distinct entity from the New York Police Department because they basically control the entire World Trade Center plaza. Now, they have the monumental task of sweeping the entire area for explosives, and they have a secret weapon to get the job done, a team with a lot of experience and a nose for sniffing out trouble. Max is one of the longest-serving police dogs in the country. On the job for more than a decade, he and his handler were called into duty on 9/11 and arrived on scene just after the towers fell.
Set up a command post about 4 blocks north of here on West Street, and we were already given a list of the missing officers. Everything happened. Everybody was doing something, but almost in this, not in a state of disbelief.
They lost 37 officers that day, and he's still haunted by some of the things he witnessed.
In Building 5, there was a daycare center. So walking through that was hard. Thank God it didn't open. But all the desks were there and everything was covered with gray dust.
The World Trade Center site is still under the command of Port Authority Police. They're responsible for securing the site for Sunday's memorial. Max and Brian, just one of several teams that will sweep every square inch looking for explosives.
We will sweep the complex and Tower 1 and make sure, along with police officers, we will have a K-9 team, and they will do both a visual and a K-9 sweep of the entire property.
If there is anything suspicious, Brian is sure Max will sniff it out.
I still trust Max. I trust my dog, and he still is one of the better dogs we have. But I might be prejudiced in saying that.
I know I feel a little safer knowing that Brian and Max are working behind us into this evening as well, trying to sniff out any trouble. This, of course, is the main focus for commemoration ceremonies, the National Memorial behind us, but of course 9/11 played out that terror in many other locations as well. A moving service today held in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where BC's Sarah McLachlan performed at a national memorial for the heroic passengers and crew of United Flight 93. Where it crashed into a field.
With almost no time to decide, they gave the entire country an incalculable gift. They saved the Capitol from attack. They saved God knows how many lives. They saved the terrorists from claiming the symbolic victory of smashing the center of American government.
Their heroism, courage, and sacrifice.
Jason M. Dahl.
Honoring the 40 passengers and crew who fought back against their attackers aboard Flight 93. Their names etched in a permanent memorial in a Pennsylvania field.
And that what happened above this Pennsylvania field ranks among the most courageous acts in American history.
Their children know they are heroes, but the loss is profound.
For the longest time, I thought that he had survived for years and years and years. Like he was somewhere in Pennsylvania and he was on his way home. He never came home.
In Washington, President and Laura Bush laid a wreath at the Pentagon to honor the victims who were killed there. And in New York, more road closures, more security. But the mood here is also about remembrance. At the Firefighters Memorial and churches near Ground Zero tying ribbons, people expressing their thoughts.
Terrorists can destroy our buildings, but they can't destroy our spirit.
At this service at St. Patrick's Cathedral, honoring the families and first responders who never came home, paying their respects were some Canadians.
All of those guys. We're just average guys, like the rest of us are, that put the uniform on.
And memorials similar to that have been popping up all over the city over the past couple of days, showing the true resilience of New Yorkers and others who visit here. This morning in Battery Park on the southern tip of Lower Manhattan, just a few blocks from here, hundreds of people gathered, joining hands at 8:46 a.m. That's the exact moment the first plane hit the North Tower. The group then observed a moment of silence, paying their respects to all of the nearly 3,000 people who were killed. Now, the neighborhoods that make up Lower Manhattan have gone through incredible changes in the past 10 years. The fear that once existed down here has been replaced by hope and optimism that rises right along with the new World Trade Center behind us. And no one embodies that better than a shopkeeper who's been down here working hard since day one. This storefront has become a symbol of the character and the soul of the city. Owner Minas Polychronakis has been fixing shoes for 58 years, 25 of those at his original shop in the Twin Towers. That all ended 10 years ago on 9/11.
After September 11, we lost about a month. Over a month was everything shut down here. The only thing you see debris and ashes.
He keeps mementos of that terrible day to remind him. His ID card, his checkbook found in the rubble, and a jar of that dust that covered everything.
How you cannot keep it. It's part of me.
Minas went $400,000 into debt to stay in business. But with the financial district booming, business is picking up. And he's not the only one benefiting. Maggie Kent is a realtor starring in the hit TV show Selling New York.
You've got 11-foot ceilings. You've got these beautiful hardwood floors, this beautiful open plan.
This 2,000 square foot, one-bedroom condo is in a building that was once J.P. Morgan headquarters. Another example of how residential space is replacing commercial real estate downtown.
It has a lot of amenities. I mean, it has a bowling alley. It has a pool. It has a pool room. It has a lounge. It has a kids' playroom. And and that's all below us. And so families could come here, and you have a lifestyle to come to.
And few prospective buyers even blink at the $1.75 million price tag. With a population that's grown from 23,000 in 2001 to well over 45,000 today, the demographics are changing. Suits are being replaced by strollers as the ultimate fashion accessory.
It's great because, you know, you're still in the city, you have access to restaurants, you have access to theaters and all sorts of things. And then on the other aspect of it, you can still raise a family in a very safe, quiet, park-like neighborhood.
And I lived here for so many years and I never even enjoyed this. Until I moved down here, I didn't know.
A neighborhood transformed, buffed and shiny in a way that Minas would understand as he waits to reopen his shop when the new World Trade Center is complete.
I choose to stay here because I feel it's my home, and I still feel the same way.
New Yorkers are tough. Minas may be one of the toughest. It was a pleasure to meet him. And some final notes here, Robin, will let you know that Prime Minister Stephen Harper arrived in New York City this morning to take in some of the anniversary ceremonies. Tonight he's meeting privately with relatives of the 24 Canadians who were killed in Washington and here in New York City. And tomorrow he'll attend a public memorial just a couple of blocks from here at the British Memorial Gardens at Hanover Square in Lower Manhattan, and that is to commemorate the British citizens who lost their lives here. Tomorrow on the NewsHour, I want to mention this because it was a fascinating conversation we had with Michael Arad. He is the designer and the architect behind the beautiful and stunning Memorial Plaza. We'll have that for you on the NewsHour tomorrow, and I know you've got more details about the special Global National we'll be broadcasting tomorrow about the memorial on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Back to you.
Chris, thank you so much for bringing us those interesting perspectives tonight from Lower Manhattan. Chris Galis for us in New York City this evening. And as mentioned, Global National will have special coverage of the 9/11 ceremonies tomorrow morning. Donna Friesen will be live in New York near the site of the World Trade Center as the victims are remembered. She will be joined by our Chris Galis, Eric Sorensen, and Jacques Bourbeau, as well as Paul Johnson at the Pentagon and our Ross Lord in Gander, Newfoundland. All right, we have Barry and Westlaw with us now on a Saturday. Nice to see you guys.
Beautiful day out there. Nice
Beautiful
to see
day.
You
You didn't see Westlaw at noon. You
No,
missed
I
the
did
big
not.
show over
Apparently
here.
she could start for the Argos after what they've done the last couple of
Start
weeks.
for
Has
the
got-
Lions,
Well,
thank
no, the Lions have a pretty good QB. The
You
Argos,
say the Argos need you. They need your
They
skills.
need you.
Your mad skills.
Okay, because that's a
RCMP are checking every vehicle, so they're hoping to find something. Sophie.
All right, thanks for that update. Rumina Daya in Sparwood for us this morning, and Rumina has been covering the story, the search, and now Keenan being returned home, so we'll check back with her throughout the rest of the morning here. Now to our other top story of the day, and right now relatives of the victims killed 10 years ago today are at Ground Zero in New York to mark the somber anniversary. On September 11th, 2001, nearly 3,000 people were killed in those attacks, most of them in New York. And that's where we find our own Chris Galis, who has been in New York this week covering the anniversary. We've been hearing the names read out as we do every year during the anniversary, Chris, but this year it takes on a special meaning, it being 10 years, of course.
Yeah, it sure does. An important milestone for the folks here in New York City and around the world. Anybody who lost a loved one on that day 10 years ago, it's been a poignant ceremony. It's been a beautiful ceremony. There have been some incredible performances by James Taylor, Paul Simon, singing Sounds of Silence. It was really something special to see the way people are embracing this brand new National 9/11 Memorial, and they're using it in exactly the way right now that the designer and the architect, Michael Arad, had hoped they would. They're spread out on the grass. They're looking at their loved ones' names etched into bronze along the parapet that rings the waterfall. And it's a place of contemplation. It's a place of thoughtfulness. And it's really of stunning, impactful beauty just because of the sheer size of the memorial. The waterfalls are 30 feet tall. The bronze parapet around that with all of the names arranged in a way that links them together, either due to proximity where they were when they died, when the towers fell, friends next to friends, and co-workers next to co-workers. And it really is sort of an interesting way to memorialize the names in bronze there.
Chris,
We've talked about it throughout the morning about how New York firefighters took a big hit, more than any other first responder here. They lost 343 men that day. They've lost 55 men and women since then due to 9/11 related illnesses, and nobody has taken a hit like they have. I'm going to bring in a guest right now who is now a retired firefighter but was at work that day. Louis Caccioli joins me now. It's nice to have you with us. Thanks very much for being here on this special day.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how you feel with the memorial opening tomorrow to the public. I know it's been difficult for you guys because you weren't invited to take part in anything on the 10th anniversary down there today, but when you look at the memorial and consider the 10th anniversary, how are you feeling?
I tell you, to be honest with you, when I look at it, it makes me feel good. You know, it was well done, well designed, and you know what, I think, I just hope that the family that lost their loved ones are happy about it. But I am a little hurt that I wasn't invited to go there today, but that's okay. You know what? I'll come one day this week, and I would like to see it up close and pay my respect.
Talk to us about that day 10 years ago. I know you came very close to losing your life, as a lot of guys did, but maybe nobody closer than you did. Talk to us about what happened on that day and where you were when you finally got out of there.
That day, Chris, probably the luckiest. It was a terrible day. It changed the whole world. But for me, it was, you know, I'm still thinking, deciding today, well, what am I doing here? You know, I should have been dead. I lost 10 of my colleagues. I was trapped in an elevator in the North Tower on the 24th floor. Tower 2 was going down, knocked out the power. We forced the elevator. Myself and Tommy Hetzel, I worked my way out. I lost him going down the stairs. I made it out to the West Side Highway, and then the North Tower started coming down, and I get buried, and they found me right away, and I'm here.
You wear a bracelet with Tommy Hetzel's name on it. Why memorialize him every day like that?
I never leave my house without this bracelet.
Let's show it to folks here. You got it there.
Tommy Hetzel's great firefighter of Ladder 13. They lost 9 members that day, and I never leave. I feel like if I leave, if he's not with me, something's going to happen to me, you know? And I got to meet his wife, I got to meet his family, I got to meet his little daughter, and he's just part of me for the rest of my life.
This memorial obviously is a physical representation of the grief and the void that's left in the city. You can see yourself going down there and having that moment of contemplation in the next couple of days?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll be going down there and I'll be looking at some of the names, some of my colleagues that I lost that day. And it's a very emotional day, very emotional.
It's part of the healing, and I know you've been very involved in meeting with other survivors and dealing with the emotions that come with being somebody who made it out of there when so many people didn't.
Well, they tell me, Chris, I contemplated a lot. I said to myself, I still do sometimes, why did God save me? You know why? And somebody told me, I said, God saved you for a reason. So whenever I talk to the family, I go on to, I represent not just myself, I also try to represent the 343 brothers that we lost that day.
Well, we're really thankful that you shared your story with us today, Louis. Thank you very much, and continued good luck in your recovery over the next...
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
All right,
God
thanks
bless you.
very much. Louis Caccioli, retired firefighter. Pleasure to meet him and get to know him a little bit, and his story not unlike many other firefighters as they struggle to get past it and heal from a terrible, terrible experience 10 years ago. But it is, I think, this year different in many ways, and we've heard it from firefighters and first responders, and just from the general public. We talked about it earlier, Sophie, that with the construction of this memorial and the fact that it's opening up to the public, that it's an important physical milestone, and it's an emotional milestone for people to be able to get past this event, always remembering their loved ones, but being able to move past it and get on with their lives.
All right. Chris, thank you, and an honor to have that firefighter on our show this morning. We'll talk to you again in a little bit.
Thanks, Sophie.
Chris Galis in New York for us this morning. Well, ceremonies are also taking place here in BC to
we were asked, have you seen any hitchhikers? Have you seen anything suspicious? RCMP have roadblocks in Sparwood and the surrounding communities. They're checking every vehicle in hopes of finding Hopley. They also made a plea to Hopley today as well to please give them a call. They say that there are some health concerns that they are concerned about, and that his mom and his siblings are wondering how he's doing. And the plea that they made yesterday, it obviously worked. Keenan was brought home, and they're hoping they might be able to reach out to Hopley as well today.
All right,
Sophie.
Rumina, thanks so much for joining us this morning. And of course, we'll bring you more details on the story as it continues to develop throughout the rest of the morning and the rest of the day. Now to our other top story of the day. Family members of victims of the 9/11 attacks are in New York this morning, taking part in a ceremony to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the attack and for the unveiling of a monument that marks the place where the World Trade Center once stood. The latest on that, we are joined by our Chris Galis, who has been in New York this week covering the anniversary. Chris?
That's right, Sophie, and the National 9/11 Memorial opened to the families of victims who died on 9/11 10 years ago. It's a stirring memorial, a beautiful looking memorial that takes up almost an entire city block here, 8 acres in all between the two waterfalls, and we'll learn a little bit more about that in a moment. But first, we've seen scenes of sadness and anguish and a lot of people at the side of the waterfall trying to come to terms with their loss even 10 years later as they continue to read the names of the victims out in pairs from the podium here in New York City. It's still surrounding the memorial, a construction site, although nobody is on the job right now. The whole area has been sealed off for most of the day with some of the high-powered dignitaries that have been here to take in the ceremony. But now that that plaza is open, people have a touchstone, an emotional and physical representation of their loss to be able to come down, to visit, to contemplate that loss, and to be able to just sit and think about those things at the memorial. So many people here brought pictures of their loved ones and are sharing those memories and thoughts together. You see a lot of people gathered around the outside of the waterfall there. And it is quite an amazing sight to see so many people trying to engage in this healing as they do every year. And that is what we see a lot too, people etching the name that's carved in bronze into a piece of paper to be able to take that away with them. And we've learned a lot about the memorial over the past couple of days. We had a chance to meet with the architect and the designer, who oddly enough came up with the design and was inspired by the design when he watched the second plane go into the South Tower 10 years ago, and immediately began sketching what he felt would be a physical representation of the void, finding a way to make a physical representation of the loss that he and so many other New Yorkers felt, and he feels like he's got that right now. Michael Arad is considered to be very talented, and when people take a look at the work that he has done and the vision that he has fought to preserve here on the World Trade Center site, a lot of people have been very impressed with him. And we talked to him about what he hopes people will get out of their visit to the 9/11 Memorial.
And starting a new chapter in the history of the site, everything that we've done is set the stage for this moment. We brought so much care to every aspect, every built aspect of this memorial. But at the end of the day, it's not about these inanimate objects. It is about the people who are going to visit the site and let it change them, influence them, let them have that profound moment of contemplation at the edge of these voids, see the names, touch them, connect to them, and reflect on the past and how that past has carried us to this present moment and what we're going to do about it.
Michael Arad beat out 5,200 other entries in the competition to establish a design, and it's interesting because his was the only one that defied one of the conditions of that competition, and that was that the original developer wanted to sink the entire Memorial Plaza 30 feet below the sidewalk level, and Michael felt like that was the wrong idea. He felt that people needed to be able to access it right off the sidewalk. He fought to have the plaza kept at grade, with the exception of the fountains that are sunken below the surface. And as you can see, that has turned into a very, very powerful visual representation of the loss that people have experienced here. Sophie?
It's really beautiful, Chris, and as he said, it's a way to reflect on the past. But as you've mentioned this morning, you feel a sense that people there are ready to move on. They won't ever forget, obviously, but ready to move on now 10 years later.
That's absolutely right, and the construction continues of World Trade Center 1, the big tower once known as the Freedom Tower, although they don't use that term to describe it anymore. They want to take some of that emotion out of it. It is now One World Trade Center. It's starting to take shape. It will be 1,776 feet tall when it is complete. There will be other shops and retail will return to this area, and the plaza becomes the centerpiece and becomes like a Pearl Harbor Memorial or maybe the National Mall in Washington, D.C., a place where people can go, not necessarily to think about horror and terror, but to recognize how lucky we all are to live here and be able to enjoy our freedoms. And that is really what it's all about for Michael Arad, the designer, and for a lot of people who are coming down here to look at it today.
What an emotional day, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see more from Chris tonight on the NewsHour, of course, and we'll have much more on the 9/11 anniversary, including a memorial bike ride taking place right now in BC coming up later this morning. In other news now, Lancey Hu has been missing since July, but today we are expecting to learn more about the investigation into her disappearance. Hu's estranged husband initially told police he last saw her on July 15th in Burnaby. He later changed his story, though. He told investigators that he last saw her the next morning at their home in Coquitlam. In August, her parents made a tearful appeal for new information about her disappearance, and this afternoon, iHit will release what it's calling a significant development in the case. And of course, we will be on that story for you as well. Lots going on here.
Great stuff with Chris from New York.
Absolutely. Well, of course, and I think a lot of our viewers will know Chris lived in New York for a few years, not during 9/11, but he was in Dallas on September 11th, 2001. Right. So he felt it with the Americans being in the U.S., and then he spent some time in New York following. So
it's a very good guest for us this morning.
Yeah, the city's very close to him, I think. So, yeah, good stuff.
I think anybody who's been to New York really appreciates that city and everything that it has to offer, right?
It is such a great city. If you haven't been there, you have to go. And now I haven't been for a few years. I want to see that memorial. It looks beautiful. What a great tribute.
Big news day today. I mean, all in all.
It is great that Keenan Hebert is back at home, so.
Once in a while, something new comes along that is so sleek and intriguing, it's impossible to ignore. Something that makes a clear statement that scratching has its privileges. The name is Black, Classic Black. The new Classic Black instant ticket with 300,000 prizes of $50 or more and top prize of $500,000. Available at your local lottery retailer. Get yours before it's gone, because winning is the new black.
She's a very lucky girl.
A new season of Parenthood premieres Tuesday at 10/9 Central, now on Global.
It's been a day of reflection and mourning around the world on this, the 10th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And perhaps nowhere have the memories been more poignant than in New York and Washington, D.C. Our Chris Galis joining us live once again tonight near Ground Zero. Chris.
That's right, Robin. It's been a very emotional day here in New York City. Also one filled, though, with hope and optimism about the future. Thousands of people, families of 9/11 victims, arriving early this morning for the 10-year anniversary ceremony. Security has been very tight for most of the day, with sweeps beginning last night, and very early this morning, police checkpoints were set up, spreading out for blocks around Ground Zero. With that specific credible threat hanging over the event, hundreds of officers hit the streets around the World Trade Center, directing pedestrian traffic, checking bags and IDs, taking no chances on this anniversary. Some of those vehicle barriers have since been removed, and it is getting easier to walk around the World Trade Center site right now. Around the world, people are remembering 9/11. Ceremonies here in New York, Washington, and Shanksville especially poignant. The pain and horror of that attack will never be forgotten, but there's also a sense of hope and of a new beginning here at the World Trade Center site. Our Andrew has more on today's ceremonies.
In New York, there were ringing of bells and moments of silence, a touching tribute to remember the 9/11 attacks that shook America 10 years ago. Thousands gathering to honor the hundreds of lives lost.
Tim and your nieces, Emily and Avery, love you.
And my father, Gerard Severance Nevins, a hero, but more importantly, a dad, the best dad I could ever have. We miss you.
A somber anniversary, but a gathering filled with hope as an official memorial was unveiled at Ground Zero to honor the dead, including 24 Canadians.
Like a double-edged sword, you feel very proud, and at the same time, you're hurting.
2 large reflecting pools set in the footprints of where the Twin Towers once stood, the names of each victim engraved in stone along their borders.
It hurts. I'm not supposed to see my son's name in stone. He should be looking at mine.
You can actually touch the name and feel that person.
U.S. President Barack Obama was joined by former President George Bush, each providing comforting words to victims' families.
God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble.
Obama later receiving a warm reception at a memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, laying a wreath at the site where one of 4 hijacked airliners crashed. The president also paying his respects at the Pentagon, where a new memorial was unveiled, a bench and small reflecting pool for each person who died here. Prime Minister Stephen Harper also attended services in New York, addressing a ceremony for British victims.
I offer my respect and condolences and my hope that you find on this day, at this place, and in this ceremony, some measure of comfort.
In Canada, there were several events marking September 11th. In Ottawa, an open-air concert of hope and remembrance began at precisely 8:46 a.m., the moment the first plane hit the first World Trade Center tower. Several hundred were in attendance, including Jean Chrétien, who was Prime Minister when the attacks happened. And further east, in Gander, Newfoundland, where 10 years ago more than 6,000 air travelers were stranded in this town on 9/11 after their planes were diverted, today returning to show their gratitude.
You affirmed with grace and with compassion and with good humor our faith in the goodness of people.
As well, 2 pieces of World Trade Center steel were unveiled in Gander, where they'll be displayed in town, a reminder of lives lost, but also the strength and resilience of the human spirit.
In BC today, hundreds of first responders gathered in Richmond for a memorial ride to the Peace Arch border crossing to honor and remember all of the lives lost 10 years ago. Joining them this year for the 10th anniversary, New York firefighters, police, and Port Authority police, all expressing their gratitude for the years of support and compassion. Here's Jennifer Palma.
A solo piper announces the beginning of a memorial ride marking the 10th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Hundreds of motorcyclists and emergency personnel riding from the River Rock Casino in Richmond to the Peace Arch border crossing.
Like most people on that specific day in 2001, it struck a chord right across the world.
A somber service at the Peace Arch remembered the fallen of 9/11. And standing alongside Canadian emergency personnel were 4 New York emergency workers who were invited to take part.
I don't think I'll need 2 minutes to say thank you very much for this amazing show of support, for being honored by you guys up here in British Columbia.
One by one, each of the 4 New York emergency personnel told their stories of how September 11th changed their lives.
3 years later, I caught bad news myself. I was told I had stage 4 lung cancer, and I was given 2 weeks to live. But I, stubborn person I am, stubborn I was that day, didn't listen to nobody down there to get off the pile, to get out of there, you know.
Things happened in my life, things changed dramatically. I went from married with 2 kids to being divorced.
At the Sumas border crossing, another memorial. where Abbotsford and Mission firefighters, police officers and paramedics marched across the line to stand in solidarity with emergency workers in Sumas, Washington.
We're a big family, and it impacted everybody that is involved in the services, and something will never be forgotten.
September 11th was, I think, just a huge day for all of us. In BC, you know, I guess I feel a little isolated, and it's nice to kind of come down and actually see the people that were in New York that day, and it really brings it home.
Back at the Peace Arch crossing, a chopper did a flyby commemorating the moment the first tower went down, leaving those on the front lines to reflect and remember the impact of September 11th.
And I pray that you would extend that same healing and peace to each and every person here this very day.
And an expression of appreciation unveiled at Vancouver International Airport as well today, honoring YVR's efforts during the chaos of 9/11. The U.S. Consul General presenting a plaque to YVR's CEO, thanking British Columbians who not only accepted 34 planes that were diverted from the U.S., but also opened up their homes to up to 800 stranded passengers. Now, back here in New York, the centerpiece of the redevelopment of the World Trade Center site is the new National 9/11 Memorial right behind me, taking up essentially half of this hallowed ground. It opens to the public tomorrow, and when it does, it will transform this site immediately, not just physically, but spiritually as well. And we had a chance to sit down with the man who designed it to get his thoughts on opening day. Tucked below this towering vision of the New York skyline, an oasis created in defiance of what happened on 9/11.
I think what inspired me was being here in New York and seeing how this city came together in the wake of that attack.
It's taken 10 years, but today Michael Arad can look over his masterpiece confident he got it right.
And I spent close to a year in, my free time sketching and drawing and building. And eventually I constructed a small sculpture, a small fountain that had the surface of the water torn open by these two voids.
Arad's design beat out 5,200 others, the only one that defied a competition requirement from the developer that the plaza be sunken 30 feet below grade. He felt it had to be at street level, easily accessible to anyone walking by.
This should be a place that brings us together. That's what I saw in Washington Square and Union Square and public sites around the city that allowed us to come together, not just physically, but to come together to support one another, to offer kindness and compassion to a stranger, and in turn be offered that compassion too.
It's a design and engineering marvel. Among the largest man-made waterfalls in the world, granite walls drop 9 meters into reflecting pools below. The water pumped at 120,000 liters an hour. Around the pools, etched in bronze, the names of the nearly 3,000 people who died that day. The plaza is actually a green roof over the massive Memorial Museum still under construction below. It houses an intricate irrigation system for the 400 swamp white oak trees, each chosen for its straight trunk and consistent shape.
At the end of the day, it's not about the trees or the lawn or the granite paving or the pools or the bronze panels. It is about the visitors and that inner dialogue that people will have on the site. It is about encouraging contemplation. It is about creating, the architectural equivalent of a moment of silence, a clearing in the city, but also a clearing where the tower stood. You can only stand at the edge of that site. You can never walk into it. That is always beyond our reach.
And many of the names on the memorial belong to the hundreds of first responders who lost their lives in 2001, 343 firefighters, 23 New York City police officers, and 37 Port Authority police officers. And many more have succumbed to 9/11 related illness since then. But the bond between those who put their lives on the line is strong, and it is helping survivors heal.
Michael J. Shaggy, Engine Company 74.
They're the families of the forgotten heroes, firefighters who've died since the attack of 9/11 related illness. Valerie lost her husband to cancer 2 years ago.
For them to acknowledge the fact that he belongs on the wall and is part of the people that are dying from 9/11, and he's not the only one. There's so many of them and still happening, that they deserve every recognition that they can get.
A modest memorial unveiled this week helps loved ones heal, sharing their grief with others in the firefighting community who understand this special sacrifice.
These people lingered for years, suffering, and this will provide some comfort to their families and their extended family, which is the firehouse.
Memorials for fallen firefighters and other first responders are everywhere. Down in the subway, District 4 police keep memories of 2 transit cops alive.
I personally knew Ray Suarez, and that was him. You know, Ray, stop going in. No, he's going to go back in.
Ray and his partner Mark Ellis responded immediately to the World Trade Center towers, helping many people to safety. But they were caught when the towers came down. Liaison officers were immediately dispatched to their families. Officer Mike Leone was assigned to look after Ellis's grieving parents.
First thing was to calm them down when we got there. We still didn't know what was going on. We were joking around that, you know, there's a lot of people trapped in the basement. He's probably playing cards like we used to, and, you know, and then, you know, as the time goes on, you know, we kind of realized that, you know, most of these people aren't coming back.
To help the healing, many Canadian police and firefighters attended funerals here. Generosity that will never be forgotten.
You know, whether they're from Vancouver, whether they're from California, no matter where they come, and there's that love and that caring, and it makes a difference.
And nothing demonstrates the connection between New York and Vancouver firefighters better than a never-before-seen artifact that was pulled from the rubble of the World Trade Center in the days immediately after 9/11. The president of Vancouver Firefighters Union Local 18 received it in the mail just a few weeks after the attack. It is considered a sacred reminder of the friendship between these 2 organizations, and on the 10th anniversary, they are only now willing to share it with the public.
About 10 years ago, a T-shirt was sent to the union office, and I opened it up, and it was from New York, and it was a T-shirt that was ripped, torn. It had holes in it. It was in tatters. And there was an accompanying letter that said that it was found in the rubble of Ground Zero. And we believe, as the New York firefighters do, that it was being worn by one of the firefighters who perished, and he was a buddy with a Vancouver firefighter, so we'd swap T-shirts. And that T-shirt's up at the union office, and we've never figured out what really to do with it.
We've struggled for these 10 years on what to do, where to display it, what we display. I mean, it's a one of a kind. It'll never, ever happen again. And for somebody to take the time to send it to us, and it was a firefighter out of New York, for him to take that time, knowing what it meant to us, and not keep it for himself. He could have kept it in New York, but realized that the attachment that we have and sent it to us. We've never opened the bag. We've kept it sealed. That's just the way it came. And I mean, you can see it's got the dust. It's got the original dust, and that's again the struggle with once you open that up, you lose something to it.
That's pretty cool.
It was, and to receive that, it just was, again, it just rekindled all the memories.
In the letter, it states that also like to thank all the members in Local 18 for their support, morally as well as physically. I have witnessed many members of the Vancouver Fire Department at our fallen brothers' funeral and memorial services, as well as the World Trade Center. The FDNY is very appreciative that your members sacrificed so much to be with us. I hope at some future time we will be there for you if the need arises. And fraternally, Captain John L. Sullivan.
What does that mean to you?
That's a bond of a brotherhood that will never be broken. That we were able to support them, and now they want to support us when we have a time of need. And that is something that most people can't understand, but we do. and we'll support all of our sisters and brothers to the end.
A haunting and powerful reminder of that friendship. And hopefully it encourages some dialogue and a resolution to the questions about how to properly acknowledge the meaning of the shirt and put it on display somewhere. You know, there are so many compelling stories connected to 9/11, an event that changed the world we live in. Many of us remember exactly where we were when we heard or saw what happened. I had been living in Dallas at the time, working for the ABC affiliate there, when I witnessed, along with everybody else in the newsroom, what was happening. And it was stunning, and we are very curious to hear your stories. So we want you to log on to our Facebook page and tell us where you were when you found out or saw what was happening. Robin, the Day of Remembrance wrapping up in New York City tonight with something that's become a bit of a comfort to New Yorkers at around this time, especially those who don't live in Manhattan, because they can view it from across the river or from uptown. Twin beams of light, the tribute of light, representing the fallen towers streaming up into the sky. It's a haunting image this evening with low clouds, a lot of moisture in the air, but this may be the last year for it. It's run by an art society that no longer has the funding for it, and this may be the last year that they see it here in Lower Manhattan. But with the opening of the National 9/11 Memorial as a real touchstone and a physical representation of the loss, I think a lot of people are going to be able to see for themselves that physical representation of loss and be down here and enjoy it and the contemplation that comes with it. Robin, back to you.
Chris Galis live for us in Manhattan tonight. Chris, thank you so much for that. We will check in again with you at the end of the show. Appreciate it. I think haunting is the best word for those beams, but beautiful. Quite something. All right, we're taking you back now live to Lower Manhattan in New York. A very emotional day, a very emotional couple of days as the 10th anniversary of 9/11. And our Chris Galis has done such a tremendous job of allowing us to get an understanding for what it's been like there. And Chris, I know you'll be one of the first to see the site in person tomorrow.
That's right, Robin. It opens to the public tomorrow, and just a couple of weeks before we were planning to come down here, I booked a pass. So we have a time at 3 o'clock. We'll be there and be able to experience it firsthand instead of from across the road, which we have been. But it will be beautiful. It's stunning and striking from this far away. I'm sure it'll be great tomorrow. Thanks a lot, and what an amazing finish to the Hebert story.
Thanks very much for that. Chris Galis in Manhattan for us tonight. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good night.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you.